What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another Fall Obsession podcast. My name is Sam Thrash. I'm the show host over here at Fall Obsession. Thanks for tuning in. This week, I am on here with a good friend of mine. He's been on the podcast before, actually, but it's been a minute. Mr. Jesse Johnson from down here in Texas. He is a huge public land hunter and an avid traditional bow hunter. Really awesome dude, good Christian guy, and really enjoy my friendship with him and everything, and getting to get on here and talk a little bit of hunting with him. He was on our show back in the, I don't know, episode 92 or 93, somewhere in there. So it's been over 100 episodes, but um, we catch up, talk a little bit about his public land hunting adventures, talk some traditional archery, and then a couple of larger adventures that he's had out of state in Colorado doing an elk hunt, and then also going to Canada for a bear hunt. Talk about those adventures and the trials and the successes of such. So always a good time just to sit down on here and talk hunting. So hope you guys enjoy this conversation. He's one of the best bow hunters I know and one of the best woodsmen I know. So got some good nuggets in here for you guys. But before we get to the episode with Jesse, got to hit a few things with our sponsors here. As you guys know, first and foremost, Hoot Camo, rocking a shirt in the podcast video. We started our partnership with Hoot last year and wore their gear in many different environments last year: Texas, Colorado, trees, flatland, CRPs, scrub brush, you name it. And really, really pleased with the gear. The quality is all there. The warmth is there in the cold weather. We were in the single digits at times up in Colorado, and I just had on a good base layer, my Hoot fleece, and then my Hoot heavyweight outerwear, and I was perfectly comfortable for the entire week. It was absolutely amazing. So the pattern also adapts to many different environments and everything. Is very versatile. It's awesome to see the science behind that and everything. So if you guys are looking to get into a new set of good quality camouflage gear, I recommend you check out Hoot Camo. On top of it all, they're at a price point that's realistic for the blue collar hunter. If you are looking to get into a high quality set of gear, you can go to their website and see that their prices are very competitive in that regard. And if even if you're not getting a full set of gear, you can shop just general lifestyle wear, fishing gear, golf gear, that kind of stuff. Hoot makes all that kind of gear as well. So hootcamo.com, go check them out. And if you want to place an order, use the code FALLOBSESSION15. That will save you some money at checkout. News on Safaris is a new Fall Obsession podcast partner. We have had some members of our own team, as well as other people that we know outside of our organization, that have hunted with News On in Africa and had an amazing experience. They treat people right, and they have a lot of different hunts and opportunities to offer down there. If you are interested in hearing a little bit about them, we actually have some podcasts in our archive, with one of our guys that has hunted with them multiple times that you guys can go back and listen to. And if you're interested in booking a hunt with News On, or just simply learning more about the opportunity, you can contact Tim. His phone number is 303-946-9441. And Newzon also has a deal for you guys. If you tell Tim that Fall Obsession sent you his way, they got some savings for y'all. And that includes a $500 trophy credit, free lodging, food, and drinks. Your professional hunter, tracker, and skinner fees are covered. Some basic trophy prep is taken care of. All that stuff combines for a $2,250 value per hunter, and that's redeemable for up to 4 people in your party. So just for telling Tim that Fall Obsession sent you their way, you guys, a party of 4 could get $9,000 in savings on their safari. So that's a pretty smoking deal if you ask me. So if you're looking at an African safari, going on one of those big adventures, you guys need to book with News On Safaris. Elite Archery is a Fall Obsession partner. I've been shooting an elite bow for several seasons now. Absolutely love it. Got an ethos on the way. Should be here any day now, and I cannot wait to rock that bow in 2024. I can sit up here and talk to you guys the whole podcast potentially about how much I love Elite and why I love Elite and why I think you should shoot Elite. But the ultimate test and to see if it's right for you is going to be going to your local Elite dealer and taking the Elite Shootability Challenge. That's even what Elite Archery themselves recommend that you do. go get their bows in their hand, shoot them, compare them to other bows, compare them to your bow right now, and see what you think. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. And even if you haven't shot an elite bow in a long time, maybe you're thinking of one from way back when they first started their bow brand. Technology in the archery industry changes very, very quickly, and Elite has taken full advantage of that. And the technology that they put into their bows is some of the best out there, in my opinion. So go to your local Elite dealer and take the Elite Shootability Challenge today. The Outdoor Call Radio app is a podcast partner. Outdoors Dan from Respect the Game TV, he created an app that you can download on any device where you can stream hunting shows and podcasts on a loop every single week. Fall Obsession podcast plays on that loop on Mondays, the same day as our new publications. And there's also tons of other hunting shows and podcasts that play on that app every single day. So I recommend that you guys go download it if you haven't already. It is free and you can start streaming immediately. And also go follow the Outdoor Call Radio app on social media, on Facebook. Follow Outdoors Dan on Facebook. Outdoors Dan does a couple of different live radio shows at local Midwestern radio stations throughout the week. And even if you're not local to tune into those radio stations, he shares the broadcast on his Facebook Live. So again, the Outdoor Call Radio app and Outdoors Dan, go check out what they're doing over there. Last but not least, Ridge Rock Hunt Company is a podcast partner. Derek Eves is the man over there in Mississippi, and he books hunts with vetted and trusted outfitters across North America. So if you are looking for that next adventure, perhaps a once-in-a-lifetime hunt that you've been saving up for, give Derek a call. He'll work with you on all the details and find something that you're looking for, again, with a vetted and trusted outfitter that he himself believes in and has potentially hunted with himself. He makes it a point to try and hunt with as many of his own outfitters in his network as he can. So Derek Eves, Ridge Rock Hunt Company, book your next North American hunt with them. Finally, thank you guys again for listening to another Fall Obsession podcast. I'll be as brief as I can with this, but we always appreciate the support of the Fall Obsession brand in whatever form or fashion you guys are able to do. We obviously have like shirts and hats and stuff like that for sale on our website, fallobsession.com, but the best and easiest and cheapest way that you guys can support us is simply by hitting the like button and hitting the share button and subscribing if that's an option. That helps us way more than you guys may even realize. So please, 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 if you don't do anything else, I ask that you do that. And also leave a review on this podcast. That's something that not a lot of folks do on their preferred streaming apps, but please leave us a review and let us know what you think of the show. Or if you have general feedback for the show, we'd love to hear that as well, whether it's in the comments on social media, or if you want to send us a message directly to us, we would love to talk with you about it. Go to fallobsession.com, check out the website, all of the content streams through there, and check out our shows on Carbon TV. This podcast streams on Carbon TV, as well as 3 other Fall Obsession series. Our Texas Dirt and Midwest Mindset hunting shows stream on there. Those are whitetail and habitat management series and like I said, whitetail hunting shows. And then our staff-inspired series, Couch Chats, also streams on Carbon TV. You guys can find that on the Carbon TV app or by pulling it up on your computer as well, or your smart TV. You can get it on there as well. And we are up for another Carbon Award through the Carbon TV network again this year. I don't have yet the information on which award Fall Obsession has been nominated for, but this is our 2nd consecutive year now where we have been nominated for 1, if not more, Carbon TV awards. So please stay tuned to the social medias because we are going to be sharing a lot of info on how you can support us through the Carbon Awards this year, coming up in the month of August. With that, I'm going to take it to our conversation with the Jesse Johnson down here in Texas. You guys are listening to another Fall Obsession podcast.
Oh, you got her, dude. She's down.
Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to another Fall Obsession podcast. I'm Sam, hosting you guys, and I am joined by a good friend of mine, known him for a while. He's been on the show before, but it's been a minute, Mr. Jesse Johnson. Welcome back to Fall Obsession podcast, man.
Thank you, buddy. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. We had you on over 100 episodes now, talking about some public land hunting and everything that you're passionately into. But I wanted to take a second for new listeners that are joining our show and everything. Just wanted you to introduce yourself again and talk about what you hunt in Texas.
It works for me. So anytime I introduce myself, I tell everybody I'm not a native Texan. I was born and raised in South Louisiana. Didn't move to Texas till I was 7, 8, about to be 18. Yeah, so 18. Grew up hunting down in the South, kind of classic deer hunting down there. Hunting family, uncles, grandfathers, all that. And then moved up to Texas and have gotten into a mess of stuff. Picked up a traditional bow, lovingly referred to as a stick bow. Well, I guess about 5 or 6 years ago now, and fell in love with that. And not only that, when I moved here, I didn't really have my connections to family properties or places I had grown up hunting. Was 8, 9 hours away from those places. So as a broke college kid, public land was my only option, and just dove in head first with the longbow, and have been hunting public ever since, and have had some really good adventures, a lot of lessons learned. But like you said, man, I've just fallen in love with it. It's really become kind of a passion. Hunting not only public land in Texas, but just all over and anywhere I can go with my bow.
What's the draw to public land for you?
I think just unlimited areas, like growing up, our leases and everything in deer camps, you kind of were assigned to one spot, and you had 10 box stands and 8 bow stands that you could pick through, and seeing the same deer and hunting the same stands. I enjoyed it, but you start getting into public land and you realize you have hundreds of thousands of acres that you'll probably never see every square foot of it that you can explore, and just unlimited access to those type places. It allowed me to start hunting out Midwest on a budget, not being able to afford to do the big outfitter hunts. So probably that just kind of exploration of it. It's an extreme challenge. You're where I hunt at, you have to lower your expectations a little bit. Not quite able to do the whole managing side of thing as much. Can't be as picky, but I just enjoy the adventure of it. And there's nothing, in my opinion, and no better feeling than going on public land, just fair chase, having access to animals and ground that everybody has access to, and being successful. It's addicting for me.
Absolutely. So public, you know me, I hunt private land and have kind of grown up in that world and everything. Haven't ventured, at least in Texas, much outside of that. But it seems like Texas has a reputation with public land of just being jam-packed full of people. Is that accurate?
So where I'm at, North Texas, a lot of times that's people excuses for not hunting. It's not terrible. I mean, you're going to have encounters with other people, but you learn how to work around them. And if you put effort in and you don't just go, to the easiest accessible spots, you get creative. It's not terrible, I bet. I mean, I bet in a hunting season, let's say, I bet I make over 100 sits every year. And I'd say maybe over 100 sits, 3 to 5 hunts are ruined by somebody walking in. And I've killed deer. I've killed deer 10 minutes after seeing somebody. Like, public land deer are used to it. So no, it gets a bad rap. But being North Texas area, I'm also able to jump across the border and go into Oklahoma, and Oklahoma has a lot more public land than Texas does. So I can kind of jump around. I try to focus in on the archery only WMAs. So there's ways around it, but it's not as bad as people make it out to be.
Yeah. Are you archery only, truly?
No, I will, especially if archery season's tough on me. I'll break out a gun in November for sure. Thanksgiving week's normally a pretty good, successful week for me and the family. We'll break out guns that weekend and maybe take a doe. I've killed a couple big bucks on Thanksgiving week. I put in for some draw hunts this year that are rifle only. So, like, I'd say 75% archery, 25% gun. I kind of got into flintlocks a few years ago, messing with that. I mean, I'm like you. I'd much rather have a bow in my hand, but sometimes you just got to get even and grab a gun and make it happen. But I prefer to be bow hunting, but I definitely do some rifle hunting.
Yeah. So what's your loadout like? Typical public land hunt or sit? What are you packing out there with you? What's your setup?
I've kept it. I dwindled down when I first started. I brought way too much stuff. And not only did I get sick of carrying all that stuff because it was just too heavy, but then also when I kind of started going out Midwest hunting and doing 6-7 day backpacking hunts, I realized I was bringing way too much stuff for local hunts. So normally it's a quality backpack with binos, water, license tags, knives, maybe a jacket, and then somewhere you definitely got to spend your money on, in my opinion, for public is a high quality, lightweight tree stand setup. So I use a Lone Wolf Custom Gear .5 with four single sticks and some aiders, and that's probably the most valuable thing. It allows you to get under 10 pounds on your back, and I've messed with saddles a little bit, and they still have good use for me. There's a few spots that I hunt every year that a saddle is your best option, or if I'm double hunting with my dad or maybe my wife, I'll get behind them in a saddle. But most of the time, it's a lightweight tree stand with a backpack and as minimum gear as I can bring.
Yeah. I have to say, your success on public land makes me feel a little lazy on private because you kill far more than I do, I feel like. And
Well, it's because I shoot a lot of animals that you have the ability to pass on to walk in the attempt to manage. Around here, if you pass on a good deer, you're probably going to hear a gun go off 200 yards down the way, and on a handful of occasion in 5 or 6 years of hunting public land pretty hard, like maybe 2 or 3 times the following season did I see a deer that I saw the year before. Not saying they all get killed, but you definitely lower your standards for public land hunting, especially when you're shooting a stick. So I'm always jealous of some of the big bucks you're chasing.
well, chasing is one thing, killing's another thing.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, for sure,
but
for sure.
I understand what you're saying. There's a different standard for that scenario, and
Yeah.
like closest thing I have to relate it to, I guess, is like the out of state hunts that I've gone on in Montana or Colorado and whatnot. It's like I'm not waiting, especially
Yeah.
bow hunting. I'm taking the first thing I have a crack at. So
No, for sure.
I understand that side of it. I have a buddy too down here that has his own show and his own podcast, Johnny Mack, and he came from Washington State, and
Mhm.
that's a battle he's fought because now he, going from only hunting public land up there to now he has a deer release down here, and his first year on the place, he's sending me pictures of these 3-year-old 8 points, and he's all excited. And
Yep.
I deflated his balloon a little bit. I was like, "Hey man, I get it. You're hunting Texas. It's your first year. Like, go for it." I said, You're asking
Right.
me if I'm going to shoot the deer. The answer is no."
For sure. No, I mean, I still have a little bit of Louisiana in me, so it's hard to get away from that. But uh, no, I mean, it's kind of each their own. I respect anybody that's getting out there, and it's whatever you love. I have a buddy that he is very target buck specific. He runs a ton of cameras on public, and he hunts hard. But he's gonna hunt down one specific deer, a mature deer, and he'll go. He might go 2-3 seasons without shooting a buck, but he's surprised me a few times being able to get on public and kill a target buck. But that's not really my game yet in life.
That's got to be pretty rewarding, I'd imagine. Target buck on
He,
public.
he's a flight attendant though, so he can literally like work his schedule where he'll have 4 weeks off and hunt the entire month of November every day. So he's got a little bit of advantage over us. I think like last year he hunted 21 days in a row, and I'm like, man,
Oh
that's
wow.
you can pattern some deer if you can hunt them 21 days in a row.
Absolutely. Wow, that's awesome.
Yep.
So definitely, an archer at heart. And as you mentioned, that's if you had to choose, you'd be leaning that way. But you did like you all together hung up your compound this past year, didn't you?
Yeah. I'm probably think I'm in I think this will be my third season. I took my compound on an elk hunt 2 years ago, and that was kind of it for me. Um, so yeah, pretty much the last few years have been strictly traditional bow only.
Wow. So
Yep.
so what's the draw to the stick and string?
I don't know. A glutton for punishment. I don't know. It's not as bad as like to joke and make it sound. I mean, it's kind of just one of those things that's like comparable to fly fishing or something else. It's just like one of those things. I've tried to get people into it and I've been successful and non-successful. And normally within the first 5 minutes, you can tell if they're going to be drawn to it. It's kind of like almost a mysterious type interest in it. And I shot one when I was like 15 years old and fell in love with it. Just thought it was the coolest thing ever. The simplicity of it, the effort that went into it, the hands-on. I got a buddy right now that's transitioning it over slowly, and he was texting me some kind of troubleshooting, like, what am I doing wrong? And I texted him and I said, when you're shooting a compound, 80% of the work as far as making the shot is done within the machine, and 20% of it's up to you. And it's reversed with the trad bow. Like 20% of it's in the bow and 80% of it's up to you. And there's nothing wrong with shooting a compound. There's nothing wrong with shooting a trad bow, but I love the challenge of it. I love how close they have to be. It's 20 yards and in at 20 yards, I'm starting to put tension on the string, but 15 and in has really become my wheelhouse. And I love the challenge of it. When I was younger, I had the opportunity to hunt some really good private land. Um, and I was blessed to have a lot of kills under my belt, I guess, so to say. So that itch went away from me early. It didn't come at it wasn't all about success and the kill sense. It more became about the challenge. So I fell in love with it.
Yeah, I'm a little scared to try it. I already am bow only, and I'm worried
Yeah.
that if I go a step farther and fall in love with it, that my freezer is going to be even more empty, given my luck, that is.
I tell people all the time, Texas is a great place to start. Keep your compound during deer season. Just keep doing your thing. But if you have access to hogs and can bait up hogs, that's a great way to kind of get your feet wet in it, get them coming into a feeder and controlled environment. And I mean, once you take a couple pigs or something off a trad bow, you'll fall in love with it. But I mean, I tell guys all the time. I have a buddy that's into it right now. And I told him, I said, do not freak out and sell your compound and just go all in. Like, start off season, get your doe on the ground, maybe get a buck or something, and then say the entire month of December, I'm going to hunt with a trad bow and see if you like it. Like one of my best friends, he's compound this weekend and trad this weekend. There's nothing wrong with that. I encourage everybody to try it. There doesn't have to be sides of who's better or what you do. Just it's like me going from a trad bow to a rifle. Like my buddies will message me and they're like, "How do you hunt with a trad bow? So strict." And they pick up a gun and kill one. I'm like, because it doesn't matter to me. Like I enjoy bow hunting for what it is, and I enjoy gun hunting for what it is.
Yeah. No,
So
it's to each his own for sure, and it's personal preferences and convictions and that kind of thing is what it
yeah,
boils down to. And you're spot on. We're not here to judge or throw shade or anything like that. It's just
for sure.
it, build each other
As
up
long
and
as you're
celebrate
being
it.
as long as you're being ethical about it,
Yeah,
following the game laws, and just being a good representation of bow hunters, then I'm all for whatever whoever's doing what.
yeah. So, and I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into the archery side just because of my archery brain, as I call it. Um, but what's your holding point and your aiming point like with your trad bow, and how do you prepare and sight in, if you will, for you were talking about putting tension on the string at 20 and 15 being your wheelhouse. What's the difference look like for you as an archer?
Um, So when I first started shooting a traditional bow, I was very dead set I wanted to be an instinctive archer. And to explain that real quick, if someone doesn't mean, that means you literally you grip the bow, you bear down on the spot you want to hit. You're not paying attention to the tip of your arrow. You're just focusing on the spot, and you draw, you hit anchor, and you let go. It's comparable to, you don't see a baseball player, a pitcher, line up a baseball and squint. They pick out the catcher's mitt and they throw it at it. That's how I wanted to be. That is not how I could do it. I had a major struggle for 2 to 3 years forcing myself to do that. I could go out and on a target, take the same shot and be consistent. But then you put me in a tree stand and I was at an angle or the depth perception was different and I was missing deer like crazy. So I finally said, you know what? I was never a good pitcher, so maybe I'm never going to be a good instinctive archer. So I got with one of my good friends, was blessed. He's a decorated archer in the traditional side. And I said, hey, I need to figure out something to be consistent. And he taught me the gapping method. And all gapping is you're paying attention to the tip of your arrow. So you draw back and you line up, you look down straight down your arrow, and that aligns your left and right. And then the tip of your arrow will be under where you want to hit. For me, my gap is like 15 inches. So if I want to hit a bullseye, I got to hold the tip of my arrow about 15 inches below that. On a deer, that's roughly their elbow. It almost becomes a little bit instinctive. Like, I don't really sit there and think, okay, that's 15 inches below. Like, it's kind of like you don't have to think about, okay, it's my top sight, my 20 yard or whatever. You just kind of know, you're used to your yardages. So I use a gapping method, aiming, aware of where my arrow is. And from there, all it is a 3-step process. It's acquire a spot. Okay, I want to hit this deer. I want to hit whatever this animal is right here. And I acquire that spot and think about where 15 inches is. I draw and hit my anchor. My anchor is my index finger to the corner of my mouth. And then I lean into my shot and I start engaging back tension, which means I'm pulling through. Because if you pluck on a trad bow and throw out this way or pull back this way, you'll pull your shot left or right. So it's very important as like what are the hinge release? Is that
like a hinge or a back tension or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah. So what I do is I hit anchor and I begin to pull. I pull in through my shot, and are you familiar with psycho triggers and that type of thing of archery? When I feel the feather of my nose, let me grab an arrow.
Yeah.
I'm pulling through my shot, and when I feel the tip of that feather touch my nose, that's my psycho trigger. So I can pretty much break target panic, because if I'm just sitting there trying to do it, I'll lose my mind. So I can pick my spot, start drawing, and then I can quit thinking about aiming, and I'm just pulling. And as soon as I feel that hit, that arrow's gone, and it acts as a psycho trigger for me. And yeah, it's a pretty simple process. Just acquire, align, and apply back pressure. And if I can go through those 3 things, and most of the time I'm pretty consistent.
A quote unquote simple process, but yet for a novice, definitely wouldn't
Yeah.
sound like one, and takes practice, discipline, and some muscle memory development to be able to execute that consistently, I'm sure.
And it's weird when you transition. Like, I've gone the first couple of years, I'd go back to a compound, and actually once you get used to it and you start shooting a compound again, you realize how much can go wrong. Like, are your yoke out of time? Is your alignment a little bit different? Is your sight moved? Are you still in tune? Like, I've actually got to the point where, like, I love the simplicity of, if I screw up, it's me. It's not the bow. I mean, I know you've had it. You've gone out there and done the same thing, and your bow got out of time. Your sight got bumped. Like, there's no excuses. It's like, nope, I suck today. Like, that's what it is. So I've learned to enjoy it that way. But I tell anybody, if you're going to get into traditional archery, if you're listening to this, send me a message. I'd love to help you. Just try to go to an aiming method and a process, and you will find success and consistency way quicker than trying to shoot instinctive. I've had buddies pick up a bow, shoot it for a week, and kill a deer or kill a hog a week later because they developed a process and just put it to the test, and it worked.
That's awesome.
Yep.
How much weight are you pulling?
I shoot between 45 and 50 pounds. I have one 50-pound bow and one 45. And obviously, the further you draw back, the more poundage. But at my draw length, I'm shooting about 46 at my draw length. And then on my 50-pound bow, I'm shooting like 49, 50 right on the verge right there.
Gotcha. And is there anything specific that you look for in a bow, like a traditional bow?
I prefer longbows over recurves. That's probably 90% aesthetic. I just like the way they look better. I feel like they're more forgiving. You have a lot more energy loaded up into that limb. It's like a radical compound versus like a more parallel limb type thing. You don't have as much energy loaded up. So if you mess up, it's more forgiving. So I prefer a longbow. I like about 60 inches in length. I like like I don't like a straight limb grip. I mean a straight profile grip. I want like a think of like the old school Hoyt wood grips, real deep valley, like
Yeah.
really get your hand in there. I want like something that's a locator grip, real repeatable. I don't care really about speed. Quiet's very important. Quiet because of the speed. You know, it doesn't matter. 30 feet per second doesn't matter to a deer. If they duck, they duck. I mean, you've had deer duck on a compound, and I'll never be that fast. But if I can keep it quiet and reduce their duck, I find that's a lot more efficient.
That makes sense. What about your arrow build? What's that look like?
I wouldn't say I nerd out on arrows, but I had to learn a lot when I got in traditional to make it efficient. I prefer an arrow between 540 and 600 grains. The reason I like that for my poundage is because, you know, when you shoot a trad bow, you have a lot bigger arc. So if you can keep that arc flatter longer and not shoot too big of an arrow that's going to drop in, and you can shoot, you know, a heavy enough arrow to where you get good penetration, but you can keep a window of time where that arrow's staying on a very flat plane, pretty much from 20 yards to 12 yards, your gap is the same. I'm not like 15 yards, I got to hold 18 inches below, and 20 yards, I got to hold 12 inches below. I try to build my arrows where I'm hitting that plane perfectly at that timeline. So I can just think, hey, if that deer is 20 and in, I can hold here and it's going to hit its mark every time. So I'm pretty strict on that. I'm a major fan of cut on contact. Trad bows don't have the energy to open up an expandable. They have the energy, but you'll lose too much. So I shoot a 3-blade cut on contact, 550 to 600 grains, with 3 5-inch feather fletchings. And I predominantly shoot carbon, but I'll also shoot wood arrows. During deer season, I shoot wood arrows a lot, but typically in the off season or any travel hunts, I go back to carbon just for their strength.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's
Yep.
awesome. Well, another thing I wanted to talk to you about are a couple things, a couple trips that you've had the opportunity to go on since we last spoke on here, that is. And one of them was last year you got to go up and put together a little elk hunt. I wanted to talk to you about that and hear the story on that one.
Yeah, for sure. So it was about a 4-year quest. I started hunting over the counter archery in Colorado about 4 years ago. And my first year was archery, brought a compound. We worked a couple bulls, had a good hunt, and had a game plan for the next year. The second year was rough. It was hot September. Not a lot of bulls, just real. It was a rough week. And I'll get more into the detail of how the hunt works when we get to the fourth year, the best year. Third year, I went solo. I think we were coming out of COVID. Work was tight for everybody. Things were tense in the world, and I just wasn't going to miss it. So I went solo. And that was a really good experience. 7 days in the backcountry of Colorado by yourself. You have to be ready for that. A lot of mileage at that point in time, hiking in 15, 16 miles. And that was a really good self experience. Probably wouldn't do it again just because after this last year and handling an elk, packing out an elk, it's a lot to take on. I would recommend trying to go with somebody just for the load of camp life. Third year, nothing happened, had some good encounters. And then my fourth year, I had enough points for that same area we had been hunting to draw muzzleloader. So I went ahead and cashed in my muzzleloader. Colorado muzzleloader is, at least where we're at, it's only open sights. You can't have a scope on your gun, and it has to be real black, like not real black powder, but it can't be the pellets. It has to be real powder. So it's a 50 yard and in game, maybe 75 yards if you're a good enough shot. I wanted to keep it 50, 60 yards. But kind of how that hunt went, we take off, drive from Texas to Colorado. And the first few years we did it, we hiked in. This year we had gotten a hold of a rancher and developed a relationship with him and actually rented horses from him. And we packed in horses. He rode in with us and brought them out. But we went in like 15, 16 miles with each of us had a horse and then a pack horse behind us. We brought in some, the past years we had done lightweight, real, backpacky type stuff. We brought in a soft side cooler. We brought in a good tent. We were on the mountain this year living right. We even brought in 1 cooler of dry ice and some ribeyes to eat one night.
There you go.
Still a really tough hunt, but the horses were worth it. So get there on a Sunday. He packs us in. Pretty much hunt from Monday till Friday, and then kind of get everything loaded up and pack out Saturday afternoon. Pretty good little ride in, and it was pretty funny because, growing up, we had neighbors with horses, and I rode a little bit, but definitely not like a cowboy riding a lot or anything. And Sam, I tell you, 10 hours on a horse, bro, I couldn't walk the next day. I was dying. Like, I think I would rather walked in because I was so sore. And I mean, we went from 7,000 feet to 11,000 feet, and you're trusting a horse on the side of a mountain trail that, I'm not lying, is this wide. Like, there was a pucker factor.
Oh, yeah.
There was a few times I almost was like, I'm getting off this horse and walking him because I don't want him to slip. But pack in, set up camp, and then start hunting the next day. If you over the counter units hunt elk in Colorado, you learn real fast that bugling is not your best, in my opinion, your best option. I mean, it sounds like a war zone in the morning in Colorado. Guys just screaming on bugles. And you can tell, man, when it sounds like someone's blowing it through a Nerf gun, it's like, that's not an elk. And it's crazy because at night, 2, 3 in the morning, we're hearing bugles all night. But at daylight, they shut up. They don't talk. Those elk are educated. So we started having a lot more success over the last years. Light cow calls, still hunting through areas we knew were sign, rubs, wallows, bedding, droppings. And I mean, just really slipping through there, just squeaks. We hunted for 3 days, doing about 5 to 6 miles a day in the morning. You hunt low when the thermals are coming down. About 10 o'clock, thermals start shifting up, shoot up the mountain, hunt high, trying to catch something. And then about 1 o'clock coming down the mountain. And we really don't hunt evenings too much. You have a very small window in the evening where the thermals are behaving. And we'll go out some. In the evening, I'll sit a wallow. I'll, kind of scout a little bit. But our eggs in the basket were in the morning. And morning 3, we got on a little shelf that in the past years I had found some really good bedding on. And I had my partner with me. He was calling. I was on the gun. When we go back next year, I'll probably be calling and he'll be on the gun. And we stopped on this little area, and I told him, I said, I know elk were bedding there last year. It's still good sign in here. Let's stop and call. And I went up about 30, 40 yards, got set up, gave him the thumbs up, and he hit just a little cow mew and a very distinctive crack in a limb, just not like a squirrel, not a chipmunk, just a click. And I looked at him and I said, that was an elk. And he was like, are you sure? And I said, yeah, that was an elk. Like that was a big animal. I heard another crack, and I said, they're looping. And our thermals were kind of still coming down, but starting to transition up. And I knew he was circling around to get the wind. And then I heard a really familiar noise. If you're deer hunting, I could hear tines in branches.
Yeah.
Like I heard dragging. And I told him, I said, an elk's coming. And he hit another mew. And I'm already propped up on the side of the tree thinking, man, please, Lord, let this happen. And right about that time, I looked and there was a good size aspen tree, and I could see a tine on this side and a tine on this side, and I could see it just, and it was not, I killed like equivalent of like a cow horn spike to a deer. Like I did not kill a big elk. It was a 3-year-old elk, but I mean, over the counter in Colorado, if it was legal, I was killing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm sitting there and he's just kind of watching and turning his head, but he knows where I'm at. And he's like, there's not a cow up there. And I hear my partner behind me saying, shoot. And I'm like, I can't. And he's saying, shoot. And I'm like, I can't. The bull is 60 yards. And I'm kind of irritated that he's talking. And I'm like, there's a tree in front of him. I can't shoot. So finally, my bull turns and angles up, and I think it was 66 steps, and he turned his shoulder, and I squeezed off a shot, and the smoke cleared. I mean, if you've ever seen a muzzleloader for the first couple of seconds, you can't see what happened. And the smoke cleared, and my bull was just standing there. And I'm like, oh, no, 4 years of this, and I just blew this shot. And in my head a little bit, I was thinking we had some rain, and I was wondering, did I get a weird charge? Did I pull the shot? And then the elk just turns, and when I tell you walked out of sight, and my heart was broke, I said, I just ruined a 4-year quest. Like it could be another 4 years. It could be 8 years till I kill a bull. And then I hear my partner reload and shoot. And I'm like, I can't see him. He said, reload. So I'm starting to reload, and I reload and I turn around and look, and he's like, shoot. And I'm like, he's gone. And I turn, and there's another bull right there at 50 yards looking at us, a twin to my bull that I never saw. Two of them came up, and I never saw his bull, and he never saw my bull. So right about that time, he's like, shoot. And I realized what's going on. I'm like, I'm not shooting. I don't know if I killed the first bull. And he said, what do you mean? You didn't kill him? And I said, I shot a different bull. And right about this time, this bull takes off. He's fired up. He's like, dude, you didn't hit that bull. And I'm like, no, that bull is not the bull I shot at. He's like, there was two. And I said, yes, I shot one further up on the hill. And he was like, oh my goodness, I never even saw the other bull. So he said, do you think you hit it? And I said, I feel good on the shot. I squeezed the trigger, but he didn't react. And he's killed a bull before, and he's called in 2 other bulls. He's much older than me. He's had opportunities, and he said, man, he said, if he walked off, they're normally like you popping a clutch on a John Deere tractor. He said, if he walked off, I don't feel good about it. And I said, neither do I. I said, let's do this. You stay here. I'll be able to see your orange. I'm going to walk to where the bull was standing while it's fresh on my mind, and I'm going to hang my orange hat on it. And then we'll give it a few minutes, eat a snack, gain our composure, and see if we can find blood. And he said, okay. So he stayed there, and I walked about 50 yards, and there was an aspen laid over a deadfall. And I stepped up on it. And when I looked down the bottom, there's a big old gold glowing belly laying there dead. And I just lost it. I've never in my entire life hunting had an emotional moment of like crying. But man, Sam, it was a 4-year quest, and I sat on that log and big old tears were running down my face.
Yeah.
He was dead right there. And then the work started, man. Took some pictures, and we were trying to decide what we were going to do. We were 5 miles from camp. Do we get him quartered and hang him up? Do we go get the packs and try to get him out of there? It was only, 10, 15 in the morning. And I said, I feel like we can get him out of here. He's like, not if we both stay here. And I said, I'm fine. Like, I've cleaned a lot of deer. It's just a big deer. I got a lot of rope. I'll create some, some pulleys, and I'll clean this sucker by myself. And he said, all right. So he put on the pack. He had to go get his frame pack, and we had another big frame pack in camp. And I said, you go, I'll get this taken care of. And that was a little bit of a selfish decision on my part, because I kind of wanted that moment of cleaning that elk by myself.
Yeah.
And it only took me I set a timer. No, I didn't set a timer. I did a time lapse, and I went back and looked. It took me 35 minutes. And right about the last quarter, I got in a game bag and hung up in a tree. All heck broke loose. A storm came, and it just started pouring.
Oh man.
And what should have taken him 3 hours to get there and back, it was 4 p.m. and he wasn't back yet. And I had a tarp in my bag, and I had one MRE, and I said, bad things happen. And I'm not trying to exaggerate, but when you're 15 miles deep in the backcountry and you're with one other person, that's realistic to where it could get bad if you get split up and things go wrong. So I knew, I had read enough stories that the worst thing I could do was me try to go back and him miss me. And then, where is whoever? So I said, I'm riding it out. I'm staying right here. I set up my tarp, built a little fire, cut a chunk off that elk, ate it right there. And finally, about, I don't know, 7 o'clock, I see orange coming through the woods. And it was a long night. And I forgot to mention, so his brother and his son were camping below us, and they were hunting a different side of the drainage, and he went and got them, and all three of them came up there, which made it a lot easier. We got it all loaded onto 4 frame packs and started down the hill. Pouring rain, soaking wet. We finally got back to camp that night, and it got pretty scary. My buddy's brother's son, he did not drink enough water, and he had not eaten anything, and he was pretty close to being in a bad position. We got him in the tent. I was running a seek outside hot tent with a stove. I cranked that thing up, and we got him stripped down, got all his wet clothes off him, and got him a big bowl of stock and soup, threw some meat in there, bacon in there, and got him warmed up. But it was a little sketchy there for a minute. I was worried about him.
Yeah.
But we got him warmed up. They hunted hard the rest of the week. I was on vacation, man. I got up 3 days in a row. For 3 days in a row, I'd get up and I'd cut a chunk of backstrap off my elk hanging there. I'd eat it for breakfast, and I'd go fly fishing for 3 days. It was the best 3 days of my life after that point in time.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a good feeling to not be taking it down to the wire, get it done early, and
sure.
be able to kick back and chill for a little bit.
For sure.
I know that feeling. It's good.
Yep.
So you talked a little bit about just the sign that you were reading, what you guys were looking for when you were trying to get on these elk and everything. And a question I thought of when you were talking about that was, do you think that because of your experience as a public land hunter in Texas with whitetail, and that being a large part of what you look for, what you hunt for in your pursuit, do you think that translated and gave you an advantage in Colorado on something like this?
Yeah. I'm a huge advocate and proponent of developing woodsmanship skills. As you know, all the gear in the world, all the tech gadgets, it doesn't replace just being a good woodsman and a good deer hunter. And when you hunt public land consistently, you have to be a good woodsman. You have to have your senses on high at all times, because you're not bringing animals to you. You're figuring out where animals are going, and you're getting there. So you have to be hyper focused on wind direction. How does wind change in thermals? How does the wind get affected in a small drainage? How can I access without bumping deer out of their bed? Noticing little rubs. What side of the tree is the rub on? That tells me he's coming from this way. What position is a deer laying in his bed so he can catch the thermals? And all that stuff. I mean, elk are the same as deer. So yes, paying attention to how deer live their lives helped me on the elk woods because my awareness was there and my woodsmanship was good enough to pay attention to those things, to say, this bedding is here and it's facing this way because the thermals are coming up at this time. Okay, so avoid this area at that time. This is obviously a rub line and it's working this way. So this bull is traveling that route. This is a wallow, they're hitting this, you know. So yes, I think paying attention for those things helped me to be successful. I think the biggest thing for me, and again, there's guys that go out there and they get on a call and they call in bulls and they do it like you see on YouTube and on TV, and they're good at it. I knew, I mean, so like if I hunted elk for 4 years for 5 days in a row, that's only 20 hunts. Like if you told somebody to go kill a mature whitetail or go kill a whitetail and they only had 20 hunts under their experience, like they're probably not going to be successful. So I knew just going in there and trying to force myself into killing an elk and force the elk to play my game wasn't going to be stacked in my odds. And part of this is you know, my hunting partner, you know, he's killed elk. He knows what he's doing. He's killed them on over the counter, Colorado. So he's a good hunter to learn from. We hunt together good. That's why me and him hunt together. We hunt the same way, and just we went about it. It was very uninvasive approach. We didn't want the elk to know we were there. We made sure we camped, you know, a drainage over so they're not smelling our camp scent. And we wanted elk to not feel pressured. We wanted elk to be surprised by our presence, and it worked. I mean, those elk, they weren't coming. And I think if we would have blown a bugle, those elk would have gone the other way. But it was just enough noise, just enough sound, and we were in the right area, and we knew we were in the right area because of scouting and paying attention. That I think those elk thought, that that should be a cow. Like that makes good sense for a cow to be up there. And I think woodsmanship helped us kill elk.
Yeah. It's interesting too with some hunts like that are not in your normal wheelhouse, right? Not deer or pigs or anything in Texas. It's interesting how and you touched on it, you know, just your drive and your determination as a hunter to learn the environment and learn the animal is heightened, you know, and nothing to compare to an elk hunt, but like the mule deer hunt that I went on last year, right? I never hunted mule deer before, but I went into it open mind, ready to learn and do as much as I can. And I got put in check a couple of times too. Like me and Mike are in camp and we're both whitetail hunters. And you know, these deer out there in Flatland, Colorado, they're not like the whitetail that he knows in the Midwest and I know down here. So it's like, you know, there were a couple times we were trying to hunt them like whitetail, and Tim, the guy that's local, is like, no, you got to think about this, and you know he was right, and it's just it, you know, you gotta be open minded to that, and it's just a short period of time, right? A week, you know, can be invaluable experience in, you know, your future hunting elk or mule deer or antelope, whatever you're going after. So
Right. And it's everything for the same animals. I mean, you know, they got to breed,
right.
they got to eat, and they got to sleep. We knew that in our timeline, breeding wasn't going to be like, I don't think breeding's your best option. And there's so many guys bugling. So we figured out where they sleep and we figure out where they go to eat, and we try to be there when they're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. When's the next trip?
Man, I'm kicking around. I don't know what's going to be on the schedule for next year. I might really try to key in on some more local stuff next year. I'd really like to go get a turkey with my longbow. I'd like to do a couple fishing trips and everything next year. So I think next year, big trips like out of state are going to be off the board. And we'll get into this here in a second. I would have thought that bear would have been scratched off my list this year. So I was thinking 2026 I'd be back in the elk woods, but I would imagine nothing happening really big in 2025 unless something comes up. I think I'll be back in the bear woods next year. So probably 2 years from elk hunting, but maybe 3 years, and then for sure black bear, hopefully back in 2025 or 2026.
Well, tell us about the bear hunt. Tell us about that experience and why it's still on the list.
Yep. So early May, I went to New Brunswick, Canada. Hunted with March and Mill Outfitters. As you kind of know, I'm a little bit of a DIYer. I like to go about it the hard way and kind of earn it myself. Not that an outfitter's not earning it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Black bear is a different ball game. 4 years in Colorado, we've seen one black bear. So you'd spend a lot of time trying to spot and stalk and killing it. So black bear, I knew I wanted to book with somebody that ran bait barrels and have a good chance of killing a black bear. And I mean, a bear's top of the food chain, so I had no problem going to do it that way. If it can kill me, then I'll kill it however I can.
One way to look at it.
Yeah. So I booked with them. It was Sunday through a Sunday, Canada. Black bear to me was kind of one of those ones, a bucket list thing. Like I thought I'll kill one black bear, get a rug made out of it, enjoy it, make a video out of it, make a memory, and then probably maybe go do it again one day. I fell in love with it. I flew to Maine on a Saturday or a Sunday, I don't remember, and then drove across the border, got settled into camp, and hunted black bear for 5 straight days, and absolutely fell in love with the animals. The outfitter we went with, I really liked how he did things. He didn't just drop you off at the base of your tree, show you 10 trail cam pictures and say, shoot that one, and then come pick you up. He lets you be very involved. If you want to go bait barrels, you can bait barrels. If you want to set up your own barrel, he doesn't care. He won't tell you to do that. I brought my own tree stand and hung it how I wanted it. Actually, I didn't bring it. A buddy of mine brought it for me because he was driving up. And I hung a stand and hunted how I wanted to get set up for a trad bow. And just really got to be a part of the hunt. Saw a lot of bears. Saw moose. And I wasn't going to be picky. I wasn't worried about shooting a 250-pound bear. I had asked my guide, I said, hey, I want to be respectful of your camp. Give me a level, like if it was a deer, like comparable to deer, like, are we shooting 120s? Are we shooting 110s? Are we shooting 150s only? Give me, he told me, he said, a 50-gallon barrel standing up, if he's 3/4 of the way up the barrel, that's acceptable. If you want to kill that, you kill that. He said, anything that's as tall as the barrel, kill it. We want you to kill it. Anything bigger, shoot. So my goal was the first bear that was 3/4 inch up the barrel, I was going to shoot. To give a comparison to people that didn't bear hunt, that's probably like killing like 100, like just a good 8-point or something like that.
Yeah.
Nothing huge, just a quality first bear. Third night, I switched baits. And I had a good bear come, not like a acceptable bear. He was actually not quite to the top of the barrel, but not 3/4 the way. He was in between. My guide watched the video and he was like, would have been a great bear to get. And, in my mind, when a bear came into the barrel, it was going to be a very simple flip the barrel over and just sit there on their haunches and eat. They're a lot pickier than I thought. They'll come in and out, especially if they're not a big dominant bear. They'll grab a bite, they'll leave, they'll circle downwind. Their noses are absolutely incredible. I don't know scientifically, but I'd imagine they got to be better than a whitetail. Blew my mind how many bears winded me. Actually the bigger bears they'll wind you, but they don't care because they're big bears and they're not afraid of you.
Yeah,
it's like the younger bears. Yeah, the younger bears, probably not that they're winding you. They're more scent checking to get so their butts don't get kicked by a big bear. Anyway, I had this bear come in. He flipped the barrel over away from me. So, like, if the camera's me and I'm the bear, he's sitting there facing me. I'm shooting a stick bow. I'm not going to take a frontal shot. For like 20 minutes, this bear did this. And he'd go in the barrel, he'd grab food, and then he'd turn around and walk out a distance, like 50 yards. He'd eat, and he'd come back in, grab it, go out. Same way 3 times in a row. The 4th time he came in after about a 20, 30-minute span, he went in the barrel and he came out and he didn't have anything. He had no food. And he turned the opposite direction and went to the entry trail of where he came in at. So obviously my brain's turning. I said, that bear just did something different. He's done feeding and he's leaving. So he was about 21 yards and I drew back. I felt comfortable with the shot. And I drew back, and in my mind, I went into autopilot. I picked a spot tucked right next to the shoulder, like you would on a deer. And I knew better if I'd have been in if I'd have been thinking clearly. You want to hit a bear further back. They say middle of middle. So if this is the guts and this is a perfect deer shot, this is, right behind the shoulder, this is the guts, you want to hit him right here. Get on the shoulder and back off 5 to 6 inches. And you can look at how their arteries lay out and their vitals lay out and see that. But I just kind of went in autopilot mode. I picked a spot right behind the shoulder and I let go of the arrow and I pulled the shot a little bit and I squared him smack in the middle of the shoulder. I mean, it was snap, like on a whitetail, the deer, you wouldn't have had any blood, but I fully feel like the deer would have been dead in 60 yards. But I knew I was in trouble. I got good penetration. I was shooting a 600 grade arrow and I probably got 3/4 of my arrow all the way through him, but I knew I was in trouble because I'd heard too many times you don't want to hit him far forward. So I went down, looked at my arrow, and I had good blood on it, but no blood on the ground. Walked out, called my outfitter, and he said, let me come pick you up and we'll go look in the morning. I showed him the footage. He was honest. He said, man, I don't feel good about it, but we're going to give it our best shot in the morning. Sleepless night.
Yeah.
Wanted to puke. Everybody knows that feeling if you bow hunted long enough. And sun up came and we gave it all we had. We looked for 2 hours. We actually got on a pretty good blood trail. Not gonna lie. I was feeling pretty confident halfway into it, but they're tough. And about 2 hours in, there had been some awkward silence, kind of kicking rocks. And I looked at Wes and I said, what do you think? And he said, exactly what you're thinking. And I said, yeah. I said, let's call it. And we backed out and we had a good conversation on the way back. He said, look, I'm not going to lie to you. He said, I don't like when guys say, oh, that animal's going to live. You have no idea. He could get infected and die. That's hunting. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Have no idea what happened to that bear. I hope he's 100% healthy and I get vengeance on him. I don't know. But Wes told me, he said, I feel comfortable enough. If you want to keep hunting, you can. And I told him, I said, yeah, I'll keep hunting. And I kind of set mentally in my head, I said, I'm not shooting a bear that's any smaller than the one I wounded. And I had another good bear come in on Thursday. That was a 3/4 inch bear. And if you watch the video, you see it. I counted coup on him. I could have shot him, but I wasn't ready to finish out the week like that. I know I'll be back. And it was a great week, man. I mean, we had a giant bear get killed in camp. 2 other good solid bears got killed. Smallmouth fishing every day with a fly rod in the morning time, catching a ton of fish. It was a dream hunt that I'll definitely go on again. I look forward to it. But bottom line, as far as kill success, I blew it. I didn't do my part, but it's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah. I tell everybody you haven't bow hunted or haven't bow hunted long enough, at least, if you haven't experienced that. And it's a sucky part of hunting, right? Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to think about that happening. Nobody wants it to happen, obviously, but it does.
Yeah.
And it's part of it.
I told somebody just the other day, I said, anybody that thinks hunters, a true hunter, anybody thinks a true hunter is heartless and just wants to kill animals, if somehow you can make them feel what we feel when we wound an animal, they would no longer think that, because it is the worst feeling. There is nothing we'd rather do than wound an animal. We want an ethical kill. And when you're a bow hunter, it's part of it. And what I tell people all the time, natural death for an animal is way worse than an arrow through the lungs or a bullet through the lungs. Like, if they could choose, they either starve to death or they get eaten. So
Yeah.
I'll keep my ethics and hunt as ethical as I can, but I make no apologies. I hate when I wound them, but that doesn't mean I'll stop hunting.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, man. Yeah, that's tough on a hunt like that for sure. But
Yeah.
I mean, you bounced back from it with the right attitude, I feel like, and did what you can. Some unfinished
Yep.
business up there, and you'll be back. So
So you have 2 years to get good with a trad bow and come with me in 2 years.
2 years. Hey, you just told me that you can, if I'm good enough, I can learn in a week. So
Hey, let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, you might convince me by then. That's enough time.
It's a little different when money's on the line. I that was the first time I paid for a hunt like that. Money was on the line, but I told myself, I said, I'm not worried about that. I'm here for the experience. But it stung a little bit.
Yeah. Did you have other weapon options, or was the trad bow
You can
only?
go with him. You can actually go with him during our small rifle season, and he does a lot with muzzleloaders. And actually, I've entertained booking with him to go back with my Flintlock black powder because he would love it. But I'll probably go back with the bow. But yeah, he does different options.
Okay. Well, I was just wondering for your on your end, like if
Oh no, no,
if
mine.
the trad choice was your choice, but
Yeah, no, it was trad or nothing for
that's
me.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, aside, I'll kind of start closing this out with this. I want to ask you, because I'm sure I asked you the last time you were on our show, but I forgot.
Mhm.
Other than the bear that I think is a given after that story, what else is on the bucket list for you?
Bucket list for me. I mean, probably number one would be an elk with my bow. But I'm kind of like, I'm not saying I've like scratched the itch. Like, I'm I'm okay taking a break from elk because I got one, so I kind of want to get another species. Black bear, elk. Man, I really want to shoot a pronghorn, but I'm also a realist, and I don't. I think I'd be fine breaking out my 270 and going to shoot a pronghorn. Like, I just don't know. It could take years unless I got on a really good water hole hunt, and that requires sitting in a ground blind and just cooking for 10 hours. um, pronghorn's going to happen, but I think pronghorn will probably happen with a rifle.
Yeah.
But those are the big three. Mule deer hasn't caught my itch yet. I think because it's a deer to me. But watching your video last year and seeing you talk about it, that bug will bite me eventually. But right now, it's kind of the big three: black bear, pronghorn, elk. And actually, things have backed up. I was actually booked for a pronghorn hunt in 2026. But the outfitter that I was going with, it's a long story. He's having some family issues and he's losing a lot of his property, going through a nice divorce. And so he's refunded me my money because he doesn't know if he'll be able to deliver on the hunt. But I have a spot whenever he calls me to say things are settled out, but it could be a couple years before that happens.
Oh wow. Man,
So,
I'll tell you with that, because I got the privilege to hunt pronghorn in 2018 and 2019, and I was successful in 2018. Realized in 2019 how lucky I was
yeah,
to kill one with a bow on the third day. But
yeah,
that hunt in 2019, while unsuccessful, I think I learned a whole lot more about the animals and a whole lot more about Western hunting. It was only my second quote unquote Western hunt. Not like I've had a lot since then, but um, it was very educational for me, and in Montana nonetheless. So I wouldn't trade that hunt for the world. Success for no success. It was worth it. And
right.
I mean, you talk about the mule deer bug too, man. Like, yeah, it is a deer, but especially where we went, it's a deer that acts different, and you got to
Yeah,
hunt them different than
for
anything
sure.
you've done whitetail. And we were talking about it too, about even busting out a blind in one certain spot and trying to Texas hunt these muleys at one point. But
Yeah,
to have the opportunity to do a spot and stalk like that in just in nothing in the
yeah.
grass basically was man, it gets your heart pumping, and
Oh,
you
I
get a
was
chance
so
to do it,
fired
do
up
it.
when actually I think Brooke texted me first and said he got one, and I was so fired up. I was like fist pumping because I knew how bad you wanted that. I was so excited for you.
Yeah, man. It was, and I don't know if I've talked about it on our show, but coming off of the low of losing, we just talked about losing animals, losing a buck down here in Texas, a respectable buck too at that, and having to go up there then, kind of just on edge, just that feeling. I'm like, man,
Yeah,
I can't kill a whitetail with a compound at 40. What am I supposed to do if I got a 80-yard shot on a muley here?
you just can't
What?
think like that. You just got to power
No,
through it.
and you couldn't, but man, I'll tell you, like, and you know the feeling. It plays in slow motion, the whole thing. Like the second your arrow releases to impact that animal running off, I can see the arrow sticking out of them, and I'm just thinking, go down, go down, go down, and watching them drop. It's just,
Yeah,
you talked about with that elk, all the emotions hit you. That was me out there in in the middle of the
for sure,
freaking field in Colorado.
for
So
sure.
I know the
Yeah.
feeling.
Um, that's something I was going to ask you too. Like, these people have asked me if you could do a Midwest hunt every year, but you couldn't hunt whitetails. Would you make that trade?
For muleys,
Yeah,
man, I would. I mean,
you would.
I would 100%.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thoroughly enjoyed that hunt. We were hunting in an area just unlike anything, just so flat, so flat. We were hunting in gun country, is what we were,
yeah.
and I was trying to do it with a bow.
Right.
And super fortunate and blessed that we were able to get it done. But that being said, too, you talk about Western hunts or trading a whitetail hunt for a Western hunt, man. Whitetail always will have a
Special spot.
special number one place at home. I grew up whitetail
Yeah.
hunting. I'm always going to whitetail hunt, and it's right around the corner. That's what
Yep.
I do. But um, I'm trying to do something different, me personally, every year.
Yeah.
I don't want to be, yes, I would like to go pronghorn hunting again or mule deer hunting again, but for the time being, there's a whole lot of other stuff out there and I want to experience some of it. So yeah, there's a ton of Western hunts that I personally am going to go after. So I'm waiting to
Yeah.
see if I can do an elk hunt this year. So we'll see.
Cool. Cool. Yep. I'm the same way. I don't know if I could ever walk away from whitetails, but there's something special about being in the Midwest.
No, man. I got out there on our place a couple days ago and got some work done and just being out there and putting in the work, putting in scrapes, trying to I mean just the laying the groundwork, right? Laying the groundwork for what's
Yep.
to come and everything. It's rewarding and I get that I hunt private land and have my setups already out there and everything. It's a little bit different ball game, but at the same time, I'm trying to take an approach to it where I'm hunting smarter and
Yeah.
I'm, you know, I'm not the kind of guy who's just gonna, oh well, I have a day to go hunt, so I'm just gonna go sit in my stand and see what happens. No, if I'm going out there, I've
It's gonna
intentionally
be a
set
game
up,
plan.
yeah, intentionally set different stands, different directions for different winds and all this other stuff. And I'm gonna, if depending on what my deer are doing, I'm not gonna try to push bucks. I'm gonna hunt certain bucks when they're daylighting and not try to bump them or put my scent down when they're nocturnal. I'm gonna hunt the wind. I'm gonna try to be smart about it. So
Yeah. No, I texted you this weekend. As I told you, I for the first time in a while, I got permission to hunt a small little private place, and I was thinking about you because it's been a long time since I had private access. It's a small property, so I won't be able to hunt it naturally. So man, I was out there Saturday in 100-degree weather, driving T-post, building a fence so cows don't get in it, setting up a
yep.
feeder, carrying corn bags, and I thought, I said, man, it's been a while since I've done this. I mean, it's not easy doing that either. It's a
No.
different type of hunting, but I'm the same way. I prepped it for two different trees. If I have that, that's why I text you. I asked you, hey, what's your predominant wind you're seeing? Because
Yeah.
I wanted a wind for southeast and one for northwest. I got them set up. I thought about my access, and I mean that's just part of it. It's just hunting smarter.
Yeah. No,
Yep.
nothing against the weekend warriors that, get out there when they have the opportunity and just hunt, if nothing else, man, do that. But definitely if in my opinion, if you're yes, there always is a, just kind of luck of the draw with some of it, I guess. But if you are a smart hunter, and whether it's public land or private, and you play your cards right, that's how you kill deer and kill big deer too. So
For sure. For sure.
well, man, I appreciate your time this evening and coming back on the show. It's good to get you back on here and catch up on some
Anytime.
stuff. We'll try not to
I
make
enjoy it.
Yeah, try not to make it so long before we do the next one.
Yeah, it's hard getting connected on stuff. Sometimes I feel bad because we both got busy schedules, but anytime, man. I love talking any type of hunting.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely do it again soon. I hated that we couldn't do it in person. That was the goal, because we're only an hour
Yeah.
from each other. But
Right.
like you just said, schedules and everything. It's like, let's get it done. So
That works. That works. Maybe we can do a live one around a public land campfire one night.
hey,
Drag you up
man,
there with me.
I'm down. Let's go. I'm ready.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
Tell our listeners where they can find you if they're interested in seeing following along with your adventures and everything.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Jesse Johnson _TX, Texas, Jesse Johnson _TX. Pretty active on Instagram with all kinds of ventures, hunting, fishing, camping, hiking, whatever it is. And then I also have a YouTube channel. They're not the highest quality as far as footage and everything, but Sam's watched my videos. They tell a story and they capture the moment. So I post a lot on YouTube, and I actually just kind of really committed. I've really enjoyed doing it lately, and I'm gonna try to start posting every week and just getting some more content out. But yeah, you can find that at Jesse Johnson, I think _ or Jesse Johnson TX on YouTube. If you find me on Instagram, there's a link in my bio for the YouTube, and follow along, subscribe, and yeah, that's where you find me at.
Awesome. Well, for our listeners, be sure that you guys do just that. Go follow Jesse and his adventures and follow along with the journey. If you haven't already, be sure you follow, like, subscribe, all the good stuff with Fall Obsession. Subscribe to this podcast. We drop new episodes weekly. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you again, Jesse. Appreciate you coming on.
Yes, sir. Thank you, buddy.
And we'll catch you guys again next week for another podcast. Talk to you then.
Sounds good.